talk a little bit about when's the best time to eat for fat loss. It's a question I get asked a lot, and I just want to address it in as short a time period as possible because it's not that complicated a concept or an idea, especially if you're just trying to lose a few pounds or if you're new to fat loss. I get really excited about this topic. You can get to the punchline really quickly for most people because there is tons of confusion out there with stuff like intermittent fasting or fasting windows where you're just eating at certain times of the day. Overall calorie consumption is paramount. No matter what, the underpinning factor, the common denominator in every single fat loss strategy is going to essentially take your current weekly calorie intake from up here to somewhere a bit lower. That is really just the overall punchline. So if you did want to say eat at specific times because of family or work commitments and you've got to organize your nutrition around your responsibilities, then obviously you're gonna have to take into account when you can eat. Obviously if you're in an office environment, lunchtime is gonna be a set time, or if you've got kids, you're gonna wanna eat with your family. It really does depend on when you can eat. Just eat whenever you can eat, but bear in mind you've got a calorie limit for the day. So you wanna make sure that you're not overeating, and it doesn't really matter when you decide to eat those meals. It just depends on your personal preference and essentially what you've become accustomed to, your habits. Best changes to make are small changes. So if you've been used to having 3 square meals a day, I'd say continue having 3 square meals a day, just make each one a little bit smaller and you'll get the end result without much change and you won't even feel like you're dieting. A lot of people like to feel like they're doing something and they're grinding and working hard, but sometimes it's just not necessary. It's just simple little tweaks, and then that then means you can do it over the long term. You can do it over a longer period of time because there's just less friction. If you wanted to add nutrient timing into your nutrition plan, the best time to eat would be before and after your workouts. If you're currently training, you want to be able to feed that session, and post-workout, you want to be able to recover from that session. So both of those 2 times, pre and post-workout, are going to be the times where if you wanted to get a bit more technical and a bit more advanced, then that would be the best times to get the majority of your calories. So say the average person is going to consume, the average woman, let's just say, make it a bit more specific, is going to consume around 1,400, 12 to 1,500, let's say, calories per day to achieve some sort of fat loss. And obviously this woman could be 5 foot or she could be 6 foot, and that's going to be what determines where you sit on that spectrum, on that range. You want to make sure that you're varying your training difficulty throughout the week. So you don't just want to be training hard, super hard, aggressive every single session. You don't want to do what a lot of people do, undertrain throughout the week, i.e., and what that tends to look like is texting for 5 minutes for every minute of actual training you do in the gym or at home or wherever you do it. So you don't want to do either of those things. You want to make sure you're varying your workout difficulty throughout the week. So you want to be training moderately hard at the low end and pretty intensely at the top end. Next on the things to focus on is consistency. This is one of the #1 killers of progress and growth when it comes to making inroads with your fat loss. You don't want to be good Monday to Friday and then just drop it off on the weekend, because you'll be surprised what a cheat couple of days will do to your overall calorie intake for the week. So you want to make sure that you set up some sort of plan that will allow you to have some freedom, but not too much freedom. So let's just say that you eat 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. So that's 21 meals. That means that realistically, you should be able to get away with 2 to 3 meals, individual meals, not entire days, 2 to 3 meals per week of freedom, we'll call it that, off plan. If you can do that, then you can make consistency. That is what balance actually looks like if you want to make progress. Balance when it comes to progress isn't going to be 50-50. If you try 50-50, you're gonna either stay still and make zero progress, or even worst case scenario that I see a lot of the time is you actually get worse and you gain weight, which you don't want if you're on a fat loss plan. I haven't seen anybody be able to eat what they want when they want on the weekends, and then without tracking any numbers or any form of tracking in place, and then still make progress. I've just not seen it. I don't think it's gonna happen. The biggest thing is gonna be tracking. You need to ensure that you're tracking your intake. For most people, it requires the level of discipline that can be a bit intrusive on your everyday life. You wanna make this as seamless as possible so that you can maintain it for as long as possible without becoming a recluse. There's no point having abs with no friends. What you wanna do, we've got 2 methods that we normally teach. We've got the macronutrients. What macros are, just to give you a really short snippet, is essentially your proteins, your fats, and carbohydrates. That's what most meals consist of to some degree, but when you're tracking your macros, it won't be to some degree, it will be a very specific degree. So you'll know how much carbs is in each meal, how much protein is in each meal, and how many fats are going to be in each meal that you're eating. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is hand portion control. So this one's way simpler. You can take it with you wherever you are, and it's just a simple way of guesstimating what you're eating. What I teach my clients is you've got your hand here, your palm, that's going to be a protein source. Type into Google protein sources, best protein sources. If you're vegetarian, type in best vegetarian protein sources. Okay, so you're gonna have in each meal, as a woman, you're gonna have a palm size of protein, same thickness as your palm. So you can see how this is gonna become relative to your body size, right? So this is why it works. Everybody's hand is gonna be relative to their body size. That's your protein. Your carbs is gonna be a fist size of carbs. So roughly about 1 cup if you actually wanted to measure it out. And then veggies, also fist size or cupped there. Now you've got your protein, you've got your carbs, you've got your veggies, and then finally you've got your fats, which is going to be a thumb size. Okay, so that would be roughly about a teaspoon. And your fats would include mostly things like butter and oils, cooking oils. Those are going to be your main sources of macronutrients. Those are going to be your macronutrient guesstimates using your palm. So you've got veggies, protein, fats, and carbs. In each meal, you're gonna have 3 meals like that per day as a woman, and as a man, you're just gonna double those numbers, and that is gonna be your starting point. As a man, you're gonna have 2 palms for the protein, 2 fists for the carbs, 2 cupped hands for the veggies, and 2 thumb sizes per meal 3 times a day for the fats. So you're gonna do that for all your meals, 3 meals a day. Those are gonna be your estimates. It just works. It's a very simple way. The reason why it works so well is because, assuming you're not cooking every single meal at home, you can actually go to a restaurant and look at your plate and be like, okay, cool, there's a piece of steak, looks roughly about the same size as my hand, same thickness. You're sorted, done, tuck in. The other end of the scale, where you've got the person with the scale actually needing to weigh out their meals, and that's just not feasible. You're gonna make a plan and make a ingredients list that you're gonna purchase. Okay, so you're gonna go to the supermarket and you're gonna purchase all your ingredients. You're set. It's in the house, you're ready to go, you got no excuses because everything's either in your fridge or your cupboard already, which removes that split second where you're like, what should I have? Should I get a takeaway? No, you've just spent 100 quid on your week shopping, so you're not just gonna throw it away, right? So obviously you're gonna have to eat it. You put away Deliveroo, you get into the fridge, whip up a quick stir fry, and you've actually managed to maintain your progress throughout another meal. And you just do that meal after meal after meal after meal. You're gonna do 100 meals in a row, and by that 100 meals, you're gonna be looking significantly different, okay? And if you're not, just adjust. If after say 2 weeks you haven't made any progress, just cut a little bit off one meal. Don't cut a little bit off every single meal, because you're probably just out by a little bit with your intake, not by much. Don't go cutting your calories in half just thinking, I want progress right now, because it's actually, in the long term, gonna be counterproductive. Finally, a question I get a lot is, will I gain weight if I eat late at night? Let's just make this short. No, definitive no. If that was the case, then everybody that worked the night shift would be overweight. That's not the case. Again, it comes down to that overall calorie consumption for the day. And if you want to look at it from a more micro perspective, you can look at your entire week, which is what I'd recommend. So look at your daily intake, look at your weekly intake, and doing those two things are gonna be what determines whether you gain weight. You don't want to be the person that focuses on the tiny minutia, the tiny details when it comes to any task. You want to focus on the things that are going to make the biggest difference. You don't want to focus on tiny little details like when's the best time to eat, when you've got more important things to decide on, like how much should I eat, or what should I eat, how much, and then what should be the top two priorities when it comes to your nutrition. Fundamentals, just basics. That's how you just gotta do it sometimes. In the two pieces of equipment you need to take video that we've got on our Facebook and YouTube channel, I'll show you the two pieces of equipment that are an absolute must. So if you take these with you, you don't need a bunch of space, you don't need, none of them are heavy, neither of them are heavy at all. You could pack them in a space probably as big as your palms, assuming your palms are as big as mine, but not much bigger than that. They're really compact and tight, so you can take them anywhere you want. So you can still maintain your gains and maintain your plan while you're away. So check those out on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page.